And we're back for our next Boxcar Children lesson. Um, just to let you know, I am absolutely loving this. I love this book series. I read so much of it when I was growing up, and it's always fun to revisit these really fun books. I just love it. Okay, but so we're gonna be doing lesson 4 today. But before I show you our questions for today, let's go through our goal. So let's read it at I can use. Ready? I can use key events from the story to explain my thinking and opinions. So remember, just key events means most important. So you're going to be in those most important key events, those parts of the story, to help explain your thinking and opinions. And for our questions today, so it's Boxcar Children Lesson 4. Going to start at the top. In these chapters, the Boxcar Children made a swimming pool in the book, or in the brook. So I'm kind of giving it away a little bit, but you'll get to see that. Something I want you to think about. Have you ever built something? If so, what was it? How did you build it? How did you feel once you finished? Lastly, if you were living like the Boxcar Children, what would you make near your home? And so remember, just on this sheet, each box is for a different question. So what have you built and how did it go building it? How did you build it? How did you feel once you finished and why? And if you're living like the Boxcar Children, what would you make near your home? So just think about these questions as I start reading. Chapter 7, A Big Meal from Little Onions. The next morning, Jessie and Henry talked about the strange noise. They did not tell Violet and Benny, though. What do you think it was? Asked Jessie. Do you think it was a rabbit? I don't know, said Henry, but I think someone was in the woods. I'm glad we weren't hurt. Someone must have stepped on a stick and made it crack, and maybe ran away. What shall we do? Asked Jessie. Nothing, said Henry. Watch is a good watchdog. He loves us now, and if anyone tried to hurt us, Watch would take care of us. He would do more than growl. But after this, we must not let Benny go into the woods alone. I'll keep Benny and Violet with me all the time, said Jessie. Good, said Henry, and keep Watch with you all the time, too. Good morning, Benny. Time to get up. Today you must build something for me out of stones. What is it? Asked Benny eagerly. I'm not going to tell you, said Henry, laughing. You just build it as Jessie tells you, and you will see. Henry was so eager to begin work that he ran all the way to town. The doctor came to the door and smilingly looked him over from head to foot. My mother will tell you what to do today, the doctor said. She wants you to work in her garden. Mrs. Moore, the doctor's mother, had a sweet face and looked very kind. Good morning, Henry, she said. Do you know how to thin out vegetables? Oh, yes, said Henry. I like to work in a vegetable garden. I haven't had much time to take care of my garden, Mrs. Moore said. There, see that? She pulled at a carrot. It had to come out, for it was much too near the other carrots. Yes, I see, said Henry. He began to thin out the carrots. Mrs. Moore watched him as he pulled out some of the little carrots and put them in a pile. He left the other carrots to grow. Then he began on the turnips. You are a very good worker, said Mrs. Moore. I can see that. She smiled at Henry. You may thin out all these vegetables. Then she went in the house and left Henry alone. He worked all the morning. He thinned out the carrots, turnips, and little onions. The mill bells rang at noon, but Henry did not hear them. He still worked on in the hot sun. Then he saw Mrs. Moore looking at him. You've worked long enough. You may come again this afternoon. What shall I do with the vegetables I pulled up? Henry asked. Oh, I don't want them, said Mrs. Moore. Just leave them in a pile. Well, do you mind if I take them? Asked Henry. I don't mind indeed. Do you have chickens? Then, without waiting for an answer, she went on. You have done good work. Here's $1. Henry said thank you, and was glad he did not have to answer about the chickens. When Mrs. Moore went in the house, he took some of the little carrots and turnips and onions. If he had looked up, he would have seen Mrs. Moore in the window watching him. But he did not look up. He was too eager to get to the store and order some meat. When he arrived at the boxcar, Benny told him, The building is done. I helped with it. The building was a fireplace made out of flat stones. Benny did a lot of the work, said Jessie. He carried stones and found wood for the fire. The fireplace was a very good one. The children and Watch had made a hole at the foot of a big rock between two trees. Flat stones were laid on the floor of this hole and around the sides. More big stones were put up to keep out of the wind. Jessie had found a heavy wire in the dump and had put the big kettle on it and tied the ends of the wire to the two trees. The kettle hung over the fireplace, and the fire was laid. Beside the fireplace was a big wood pile. Fine, fine, cried Henry. You have done well. Now see what I have. The girls were delighted with the meat and the little vegetables. With Henry's knife, they cut the meat into little pieces. Then they filled the kettle with water from the fountain and put the meat into it with a tin plate for a cover. Henry started the fire, and it burned well at once. Jessie cut the tops of the vegetables and washed them in the brook. I'll put them after the meat is cooked a while, she said. Soon the water began to boil, and the stew began to smell good. Watch sat down and looked at it. He sniffed hungrily at it and barked and barked. The children sat around the fireplace eating bread and milk. Now and then Jessie stirred the stew with a big spoon. "It'll make a good meal," said Henry. "Keep it boiling and do not leave it. When I come home tonight, I'll bring you some salt, and whatever you do, don't get on the fire." Violet pointed to the pitcher and teapot that she had filled with water. "That's to put on Benny or watch if he should get on fire," she said, laughing. Henry laughed and went happily on his way. He wished he could stay and smell the stew boiling, but he thought he had to work, so he went back to Dr. Moore's house. He was very happy when Dr. Moore said, "Do you want to clean up this garage?" The garage was not in very good order. Dr. Moore laughed when he saw Henry look around for a broom. "I must go out now," said Dr. Moore. "You just clean this place up as best as you can." Henry began at once. When he opened all the boxes. On the biggest box he painted the words "tools" with a long-handled brush and a can of paint he found. On another box he painted "nails." Then he picked over the things and put the tools in the tool box and the nails in the nail box. This was fun for Henry because he liked to get things in order. Henry found a lot of nails that were bent and covered with rust. He put them in his pocket. "I'll ask the doctors for these bent nails," he said to himself. "They're no good to him, but they're fine for me. I can use every old nail I get." Then he washed the floor and washed his paintbrush. When Dr. Moore came home, he found Henry putting brushes, paint cans, and other things on the shelves. My, he cried. He looked at the garage and laughed and laughed. He laughed until his mother came out to see what he was laughing at. "Look, Mother," he said. "Look at those tools. Look at the shelf. Look at my hammers. 1, 2, 3, 4 hammers. Your hammer, my hammer, and 2 other hammers. They were all lost. Can you use a hammer, Henry?" "I think I would buy a new hammer all the time because I couldn't find my old ones." "Yes, indeed I can," cried Henry. "Take one," said Dr. Moore. "You found them all." "Oh, thank you," said Henry. He showed the doctor the bent nails and told them that and the doctor told him he could have those too. He could hardly wait now to start home, because he was so eager to show Benny and his sisters his hammer and nails. "Tomorrow will be Sunday," said Dr. Moore. "Will you come again the next day?" "Oh, yes," replied Henry, who had lost all track of the days. "The cherries must be picked," said the doctor. He looked at Henry in a strange way. "We could use any number of cherry pickers if they were all careful as you." "Could you?" asked Henry eagerly. "Well, all come." So the three said goodbye, and Henry started for home. He had another $1, a pocket full of old nails, a hammer, and the pile of vegetables that he had left at noon. On the way home, he bought some salt. We're going to stop right there, and we'll come back for the rest of our read aloud today.